The small shuttle trembled as it pierced Virelia's thin atmosphere. Outside the window, the planet stretched endlessly, a patchwork of reddish soil, pale green plants, and jagged hills that glimmered under a distant sun. Young Ethan pressed, his face against the glass, his eyes wide with curiosity. Earth had been crowded, noisy, and familiar. But Virelia was entirely different, mysterious and alive in ways he had never imagined. Ethan's father, Dr. Harrison, a researcher with a calm voice and kind eyes, sat behind him. "Remember, Ethan," he said, "this is a research mission. Observe, learn, and don't interfere too much. The villagers have their own ways." Ethan nodded, but already his mind raced. "But what if they need help?" he asked. His father smiled faintly. "You'll see. Sometimes help is needed in ways you can't imagine. But be careful. Different worlds have different rules." The shuttle shook again as it descended, skimming over jagged cliffs. The landing zone was a small village perched in a shallow valley. The buildings were rounded, bluish structures that looked almost alive, as if they had grown from the soil itself. Small figures moved among them, slender, blue-skinned aliens, with large black eyes. Ethan had read about them in his father's reports. They were called Lyrans, and they had been struggling with a mysterious crop failure for years. The shuttle touched down with a soft thump, and the ramp lowered. Ethan jumped down first, feeling the warm, dry wind of Virelia brush against his face. Everything smelled different, earthy, metallic, and faintly sweet. He looked around, noticing the villagers staring at him with cautious curiosity. The leader, a tall elder named Tiran, stepped forward. His skin was a deeper shade of blue, and his eyes held both intelligence and worry. He bowed slightly. "Welcome, humans," he said in careful words. "We hope your visit brings knowledge, though. We fear time is short. Our harvests fail, and hunger grows." Ethan felt a pang in his chest. He had seen hunger on Earth before, in pictures and videos, but seeing it here, in this alien village, made it real. He wanted to do something, anything, to help. Dr. Harrison guided Ethan forward. "Let's meet the others and get settled," he said. Ethan nodded, but he already had his mind wandering. He noticed piles of dry, withered plants, cracked soil, and small children picking at tiny, shriveled vegetables. Some elders sat quietly, their shoulders drooping, their eyes empty. Ethan couldn't stand it. He knelt near a small girl trying to pick a dried carrot. "Hi," he said softly. "My name is Ethan. What's yours?" The girl hesitated, then whispered, "Lena." Her stomach rumbled audibly. Ethan's heart sank. "Are you hungry?" he asked gently. She nodded, eyes wide. Ethan felt a spark of determination. This was not a place to stand and watch. Dr. Harrison approached. "Ethan, remember what I said. Observe first." "I am observing," Ethan said quickly, "and I see a problem that needs fixing." He wandered through the village, looking at the fields. They were small, uneven plots filled with soil that looked cracked and dry. Some plants had tiny green shoots, but most were brown and withered. Tools lay abandoned, rusted and broken. There were strange piles of metal and plastic in the corners of the village, left from past projects or experiments. The villagers called them junk, but to Ethan, they looked like treasure waiting to be discovered. Ethan's mind started to buzz with ideas. Humans had solved problems before, even when it seemed impossible. Why couldn't they do it here? He imagined a small machine powered by the sun, able to purify the soil and water, helping plants grow again. It would take scraps, wires, and energy sources, the trash around the village. But he knew the villagers might not understand. They trusted their old ways, and this was new, strange. The next morning, Ethan decided to explore the village more closely. He noticed a few children playing near a pile of discarded materials. Old solar panels, cracked containers, bent metal rods, and broken tools were scattered everywhere. Ethan smiled. "This is perfect," he thought. To a human, these were materials to build something, but the villagers only saw useless junk. picked up a bent rod and turned it in his hands. "This can be a support," he muttered. "That panel could collect energy. These containers can hold water." He spoke quietly, almost to himself. A small boy not older than Ethan watched with interest. "Hello," the boy said. "I am Kiro. What are you doing?" "I'm thinking," Ethan said. "You see, these things aren't just trash. They can help plants grow." Kiro's eyes widened. "Help plants grow?" "Yes," Ethan replied. "I think I can make something, a machine that helps the soil and the water. It might make your crops healthy again." Kiro grinned. "Can I help?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, but we must be careful. Some villagers may not understand." By midday, Ethan and Kiro had gathered a small pile of materials in a quiet corner of the village. Lena came too, carrying a broken watering device. The three of them worked quietly, turning rods into frames, stacking panels carefully, and connecting containers to form a small, clunky contraption. Ethan explained each step simply so the children could understand. "This is a solar panel," he said. "It takes sunlight and turns it into power. That wire carries energy to the soil purifier." The children watched, fascinated. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. He had never done something like this before, not really. Humans had machines and tools, but here he could see the direct impact. Every small connection, every careful placement could save lives. Meanwhile, some villagers peeked from the corners, whispering, "What is the human boy doing? It will not work. We should stop him before he ruins the field." Ethan didn't notice the whispers. He was too busy working, imagining small green sprouts pushing through dry soil. He imagined children laughing and elders smiling again. This was more than invention, it was hope. As the sun set, the first version of the machine stood before them. It looked strange, with rods sticking out, cracked containers hanging at odd angles and panels angled toward the fading sun. Ethan wiped sweat from his brow and smiled. "It's ready," he said. "Tomorrow we test it." That night, Ethan lay in a small guest room, looking out at the alien sky. 2 moons glowed softly, casting pale light over the village. The air smelled sweet after a brief rain. Ethan felt both excitement and worry. Could this really work? Could one human boy with scraps of trash and a little ingenuity really help an entire village? The next morning, Ethan woke early. He gathered Kiro and Lena and led them to the small machine. They connected the last wires, adjusted the containers, and positioned the panels toward the sun. Ethan took a deep breath and pressed a small switch he had crafted from old metal. For a moment, nothing happened. The children gasped. Some villagers watched silently, tense with worry. Then, slowly, the machine hummed to life. Tiny jets of water sprayed into the soil. Small wheels turned, spreading nutrients through the earth. Ethan's heart leapt. He had done it. The Lyrans came closer, their eyes wide with disbelief. "It works," whispered Tiran the elder. How did you do this?" Ethan smiled humbly. Humans like to see problems as puzzles. Sometimes all you need is to use what others throw away and give it a chance. The villagers murmured among themselves, amazed. The children clapped and laughed. Even Lena's small face broke into a shy, hopeful smile. For the first time in a long while, the village seemed alive, not just surviving, but awake with possibility. Ethan realized that his journey had just begun. This was only the first day. There would be challenges, failures, and doubts. But he also knew that humans had a special gift, the ability to see potential where others see nothing. And perhaps, just perhaps, that gift could save an entire alien village from starvation. As he looked out at the fields, Ethan whispered to himself, "Tomorrow we grow." The morning sun bathed the village of Virelia in soft golden light. Birds, or at least small flying creatures similar to birds, darted above the fields, their wings shimmering in the unusual pale green and gold hues of the atmosphere. Ethan stood in the center of the village, his mind buzzing with plans. Yesterday's small success with the machine had given him hope, but he knew that one machine alone could not save the entire village. Kiro ran up, panting, his small face bright with excitement. Ethan, the machine worked all night, look. He pointed to the soil where tiny green shoots had begun to poke through the dry earth. Lena joined him, holding a small broken container Ethan had used for water distribution. Her eyes sparkled. It really works, she whispered. Ethan smiled, crouching to examine the soil. Yes, he said softly. But this is just the beginning. One machine, one patch of soil. It is not enough for the whole village. We need a bigger plan. Kiro's eyes widened. A bigger plan? What do you mean? I mean, Ethan said, standing and brushing dirt from his hands. We need more machines. Machines that can help all the fields, and we can make them from the scraps in the village. Everything that others see as trash we can use. Do you want to help me? The children nodded eagerly. Together, they ran to the corner of the village, where piles of discarded materials had accumulated over the years. Old tools, broken devices, bent rods, cracked containers, and rusted panels were scattered everywhere. The villagers had long given up on these items, seeing them as useless. Ethan began picking up pieces carefully, explaining his thoughts as he worked. This rod can be a support beam. These containers can hold water. And this panel? It will catch sunlight and give energy to the machine. Watch carefully. Some villagers watched from a distance, whispering among themselves. That human boy. Is he really going to use that junk? One elder murmured. It is impossible. Ethan ignored them, focusing on the task at hand. He placed a broken metal frame on the ground and began connecting rods and containers. He turned an old wheel, testing its balance. Sometimes, he said to Kiro and Lena, you need to look at a problem differently. Trash can be treasure. Broken things can help us fix bigger problems. The children followed his instructions carefully. Ethan showed them how to twist wires together to make circuits, how to attach containers without spilling water, and how to angle panels toward the sun. Science is like a puzzle, he said. Every piece has a place. Every mistake teaches you something. Don't be afraid to try. By midday, they had gathered enough materials to construct 2 more machines, slightly bigger than the first. Ethan stepped back and surveyed their work. The machines looked odd, clunky, uneven, and strange, but to Ethan, they were perfect. Tomorrow, we will test these, he said. If they work, we can help more crops grow. As the children worked, some villagers approached, curiosity overcoming doubt. One young adult, Lyra, spoke cautiously. Ethan, why do you think these broken things can help? We have tried many methods, but nothing works. Ethan looked at her calmly. I know it seems strange, he said. But humans see solutions differently. We look at what others throw away and think, maybe this can work. Maybe we can create something new. I believe we can save your crops. But we need to work together. The villagers exchanged glances. Some were doubtful, but others were intrigued. The idea of using old, abandoned items to create life-saving machines was unusual but fascinating. Slowly, they began to approach, helping where they could. Over the next few days, Ethan and the children constructed the new machines. Each one was slightly different, adapted to the materials available. Ethan taught Kiro and Lena how to test the machines carefully, how to watch for problems, and how to adjust them. One afternoon, while adjusting a water container, Ethan noticed a problem. The soil is still too dry here, he said. We need a stronger water flow. We can make a pump using that old metal tube. He pointed to a long, bent tube in the pile. Kiro frowned. It looks broken. Yes, Ethan said, but broken doesn't mean useless. Watch. He showed the children how to attach the tube to the water container and create a simple pumping mechanism. Within minutes, the water began flowing steadily, soaking the soil. Ethan smiled. See? It works. Lena clapped her hands. You really can make something from nothing. Yes, Ethan said, laughing. Sometimes the key is not having the perfect tools. The key is using what you have and believing it can work. That evening, Ethan and the children tested the EE machines in small plots across the village. Tiny green shoots began to push through the dry soil. Water flowed evenly, and the machines hummed quietly in the warm night air. The village seemed to breathe again, the dull gray of despair replaced by a shimmer of hope. But not all villagers were convinced. Some elders remained skeptical, watching from their porches. "This will not last," muttered one. "The human boy is too young. He does not understand our land." Ethan overheard this but did not respond. He had learned that doubt was natural. He focused on results, not words. The machines were working, and that was enough for him. One night, as Ethan lay under the alien sky, he thought about Earth. Humans had faced many problems: hunger, disease, war. But they had survived through creativity and determination. Perhaps that same spirit could help these aliens. Ethan realized that being human was not just about intelligence. It was about hope, courage, and the willingness to act when others could only wait. The next morning, a small crisis struck. One of the machines stopped working. Water leaked, soil became dry, and sprouts drooped. Ethan rushed to the scene, examining the parts carefully. "Ah," he said, spotting a broken gear. "We can fix this." Cairo frowned. "Will it happen again?" "Maybe," Ethan admitted. "But each time it breaks, we learn. And each time we fix it, it becomes stronger. That is how humans solve problems." Ethan and the children worked together, replacing the broken gear with a piece of scrap metal shaped to fit. They adjusted the panels and containers. By evening, the machine was humming again, stronger than before. Kiro and Lena cheered. Word of Ethan's machine spread throughout the village. More children and even some adults began helping, inspired by his determination. Slowly, the village started to change. Small plots of green began appearing among the brown fields. The Lyrans, who had almost given up hope, started smiling again. But challenges were not gone. The soil was still fragile, the water supply limited, and the weather unpredictable. Ethan knew that one boy, even with human ingenuity, could not solve everything at once. But he also knew that if the villagers learned to think creatively, they could solve future problems themselves. One afternoon, Tiran the elder approached Ethan quietly. "You have given our village hope," he said. "But I fear, what if the machines fail? What if the soil cannot sustain the crops?" Ethan looked at him calmly. "Then we will fix them. Humans do not give up, and neither should you. These machines are tools, yes, but the real power is in your hands. You can learn, adapt, and improve them. I am only here to show the way." Tiran nodded slowly, a small smile breaking through his worried expression. "Perhaps your people are stronger than we imagined." Ethan felt a rush of pride, not for himself, but for humans as a whole. Humans were not the strongest or the fastest, but they had creativity, determination, and courage, and sometimes that was enough to change the world or an entire alien village. Over the next week, Ethan, Kiro, and Lena expanded the number of machines. Each machine was slightly different, adapted to the materials they found. They experimented, failed, and tried again. Every mistake was a lesson, and every success was a small miracle. The village slowly transformed. Children laughed as green shoots grew, and elders nodded in approval. Even skeptics began to help, curious about the human boy who could turn trash into life-saving tools. One night, Ethan looked out over the village, now dotted with small machines quietly working across the fields. He felt a deep sense of satisfaction. But he also knew this was only the beginning. There were storms to face, resources to manage, and machines to improve. Ethan smiled. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but also new possibilities. With human ingenuity, courage, and a little help from scraps of trash, even the darkest problems could have a spark of hope. The next morning, Ethan woke before the sun. A soft, pale light stretched across Veralia, making the jagged hills glow like crystals. Today was important. The first full test of his new machines would begin. He had spent days building and adjusting, but now the real challenge lay ahead. The village's survival depended on the machines working at scale. Kiro and Lena joined him, carrying containers of water and small tools. "Are you ready?" Lena asked nervously. Ethan smiled. "I am ready. But remember, the machines are not." "Perfect. We might fail. And that is okay. Every mistake teaches us something." The children nodded, understanding that failure was part of creation. Together they moved across the fields, placing the machines carefully among the dry, cracked soil. The first machine went near the center of the largest field. Others followed, each positioned to cover different plots. The villagers gathered to watch, some hopeful, some doubtful. Tyrion the elder approached Ethan quietly. "I do not know if this will succeed," he said softly. "The soil is poor, the land is tired. Even your machines may not help." Ethan nodded respectfully. "Perhaps, but even if the machines fail, we will learn. We will keep trying." He flipped a switch on the first machine. A low hum filled the air as small gears began to turn, and a gentle stream of water flowed into the soil. Panels adjusted automatically to catch the sunlight. Slowly, green shoots began to push up through the cracks. The crowd murmured in surprise. "Look," whispered Kiro, pointing to a tiny sprout. "It's growing." But not everything went smoothly. One machine sputtered and stopped, water spilling onto the ground. Lena ran to adjust a container, but the mechanism jammed. Ethan knelt beside it, examining the parts. "Ah," he muttered. "A gear is bent. We can fix it." He showed Kiro and Lena how to carefully bend the scrap metal back into shape and realign the machine. Within minutes, it began to work again. Ethan smiled. "See? Even when something breaks, we can fix it. That is part of creation." The villagers watched in awe. Some who had doubted Ethan now approached to help, fascinated by his knowledge and determination. A young Lyran Fira asked shyly, "Can I help too?" "Of course," Ethan said, handing her a small container. "Everyone can help. The more hands, the faster we learn." By midday, the machines were operating across the fields, slowly reviving the dry soil. Water spread evenly, and the small green shoots grew taller. The village's children laughed as they ran between the machines, learning how to adjust parts and direct water flow. But a new problem arose. The weather was unpredictable on Veralia. Dark clouds rolled in suddenly, and a heavy wind began to blow. Ethan ran to secure the machines, using old metal sheets and rods to anchor them to the ground. Kiro and Lena helped, holding parts in place. The wind was strong, but the machines survived thanks to Ethan's quick thinking. The villagers watched in astonishment. "The human boy is clever," murmured Tyrion. "He thinks ahead." By evening, the storm had passed, leaving a fresh scent in the air. The soil was soaked, the machines humming steadily, and the sprouts had grown taller despite the wind. Ethan felt a surge of hope. This was what human ingenuity could do: adapt, adjust, and overcome challenges. That night, Ethan sat with Tyrion and a few other elders. "Why are you helping us, human boy?" Tyrion asked quietly. "You could return to your planet, but you stay here. Why?" Ethan thought for a moment. "On Earth, humans face problems every day. We survive by helping each other, by thinking creatively, and by never giving up. I see the same potential in your village. I want to help you survive, and I believe together we can solve this problem." Tyrion nodded slowly. "Perhaps your people are wise in ways we do not understand, but I have seen many attempts fail. How can I be sure your machines will last?" Ethan smiled. "You cannot be sure, but you can try. And every time you try, you learn. That is what matters." The next day, Ethan decided it was time to test the machines on the largest field where the most villagers relied on crops. The soil there was the driest, hardest, and most cracked. If the machines could revive this field, the village would have a real chance at survival. The villagers gathered, some carrying tools, others carrying small containers of water to help the machines. Ethan positioned the machines carefully, adjusting panels, aligning gears, and securing containers. He taught the villagers how to operate the machines, explaining in simple words how each part worked. "See this wire?" he said, pointing to a thin metal strip. "It carries energy from the solar panel to the pump. The pump moves water through the soil. Each part has a job. If one part fails, the others can still work. But we must watch carefully." Once the machines were ready, Ethan pressed the main switch. A soft hum filled the air, growing louder as gears turned and water flowed. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The villagers held their breath, watching the cracked soil. Then, tiny green shoots began to emerge. One by one, they pushed through the dry earth, lifting leaves toward the sun. The villagers gasped in astonishment. "It works!" shouted a young man, clapping his hands. Children danced around the machines, laughing and cheering. Ethan smiled, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. But he also knew that success was fragile. The soil was still weak, the machines could break, and the weather could change at any moment. Human ingenuity could give hope, but it could not control nature. Suddenly, one of the machines sputtered and stopped. Water spilled onto the soil and a gear twisted awkwardly. Ethan ran to fix it, with Kiro and Lena by his side. "It is okay," he said calmly. "We fix it, we learn, and we try again." The children helped, adjusting parts and turning gears carefully. After a few tense minutes, the machine hummed back to life, stronger than before. The villagers watched in silence, then erupted in applause. Even the most skeptical elders smiled, realizing that human creativity and determination were powerful forces. By the end of the day, the largest field was alive with green shoots. The village had never seen anything like it. Crops that were once dying were now growing steadily, nourished by water, nutrients, and the machines that Ethan had built from scraps. Tyrion approached Ethan, his expression a mixture of awe and gratitude. "You have given us hope," he said. "Not just for the crops, but for our future. Perhaps humans are stronger than we imagined." Ethan shook his head. "Not stronger. Different. Humans see possibilities where others see nothing. And I believe your people can do the same. These machines are just the start. You can learn, adapt, and create even more." The villagers nodded, inspired by Ethan's words. Children ran to inspect the machines, eager to learn. Adults discussed ideas, curious about how they could improve the technology. The village buzzed with energy, hope replacing despair. That night, Ethan sat alone, looking at the machines quietly humming in the moonlight. He thought about Earth, about humans, and about the potential for creativity and courage to change the world. He realized that being human was not just about intelligence or strength. It was about seeing solutions, taking action, and inspiring others to do the same. For the first time, Ethan felt that his presence on Varelia truly mattered. One human boy with scraps of trash and a heart full of determination had begun to save an entire alien village from starvation. And this was only the beginning. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Machines might break, soil might dry again, and the weather could turn harsh. But Ethan knew one thing for certain. Human ingenuity, when combined with courage and determination, could overcome even the toughest obstacles. The stars shone above Varelia, two pale moons casting light over the growing fields. Ethan smiled, thinking of the green shoots that now covered the dry soil. Tomorrow they would grow taller. Tomorrow the village would be stronger. And with human creativity guiding them, there was nothing they could not achieve. The sun rose over Varelia, spilling golden light across the village. Ethan stood at the edge of the largest field, watching the machines hum quietly, sending water and nutrients into the soil. The green shoots had grown taller overnight, their leaves glistening with dew. The villagers gathered around, full of curiosity and excitement. Today was a special day. Ethan planned to expand the machines across all fields, ensuring that every part of the village had a chance to grow healthy crops. This would be the real test of human ingenuity combined with the effort of the Lyrons. Kiro and Lena ran up, carrying containers filled with small gears and wires. "Ethan, are we ready?" Kiro asked. "Yes," Ethan said. "Today we will work together to spread the machines. Each of you will help place, adjust, and monitor them. Everyone who wants to help can join. The more hands, the faster we learn." The villagers hesitated at first, watching the human boy organize the machines. Some had seen the results in the first field and were curious. Slowly, they began to join. Lyra, a young adult who had been skeptical before, stepped forward with determination. "I want to help," she said. Others followed, including elders and children. Ethan smiled. "Good. Today we are all inventors. Together we can make this village thrive." The villagers split into teams, each assigned to different fields. Ethan demonstrated how to assemble and adjust the machines using scraps, wires, and containers. He explained every part simply. "This is the water pump," he said. "It moves water into the soil. That panel catches sunlight. This container holds nutrients. Each piece works together. If one breaks, we fix it. If one fails, we try again." Kiro and Lena worked alongside other children, learning quickly. They adjusted gears, tightened screws, and checked wires. The villagers, amazed by the children's speed and understanding, began to participate actively. Even elders who had doubted the machines started contributing, carefully observing and asking questions. By midday, more than half of the village fields were covered with machines. The green shoots were spreading rapidly and the soil looked healthier. Ethan watched with satisfaction, but new challenges were still ahead. Just then, dark clouds appeared on the horizon. A strong wind began to blow, carrying dust and loose debris across the fields. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. The machines were sturdy, but a storm could destroy them if not secured. "Quick," Ethan shouted. "We need to anchor the machines. Use metal sheets, rods, and ropes. Hold them in place." The villagers moved quickly, following his instructions. Children held parts steady while adults secured the frames with rods. Ethan adjusted the largest machines himself, bending scrap metal to reinforce their bases. The wind howled, but the machines survived thanks to careful planning and teamwork. After the storm passed, the villagers looked around in amazement. Not a single machine had fallen, and the green shoots were untouched. Ethan turned to the villagers, smiling. "See? If we work together and think carefully, we can overcome challenges. Human ingenuity and teamwork can do amazing things." The villagers nodded, their respect for Ethan growing. They had seen his creativity, patience, and problem-solving skills in action. More importantly, they had learned something new, that, even in the face of uncertainty, solutions could be found if people worked together. Over the next few days, Ethan and the villagers continued to spread the machines. Each machine was slightly different, adapted to the field it occupied and the scraps available. The villagers learned quickly, assembling and adjusting machines on their own. Ethan guided them patiently, showing how mistakes could be fixed and improvements could be made. One afternoon, as they worked on a particularly dry and cracked field, a problem arose. One of the machines broke completely, spilling water and twisting metal parts. The villagers looked worried, some stepping back. In fear, Ethan ran to the machine, examining the broken parts. "It is okay," he said calmly. "We can fix this. Watch closely." He showed the villagers how to remove the bent gears, reshape scrap metal into a new gear, and reassemble the machine. Slowly, water began to flow again, and the machine hummed to life. The villagers gasped in admiration. "Amazing," said Lyra. "You fixed it from nothing." Ethan smiled. "Yes. Sometimes the key is not having perfect tools. The key is using what you have and learning from every mistake. That is how humans create." Word of Ethan's machine spread quickly throughout the village. Villagers who had been skeptical before were now eager to learn. Children ran between fields, adjusting small parts, testing wires, and monitoring water flow. Adults helped carry materials, secure machines, and provide guidance. Even Tiran the elder, was impressed by the human boy's leadership and patience. Ethan realized that his role had shifted. He was no longer just building machines, he was teaching the villagers to think creatively, solve problems, and work together. Each day the village grew stronger, more confident, and more capable, but challenges were never far away. One evening, a sudden shortage of water threatened the machines. The small reservoir used to supply the pumps had nearly emptied, and the villagers panicked. Ethan studied the problem carefully. "We need to collect more water," he said. "Look around. These containers, roofs, and panels can catch rainwater. We can direct it to the machines. If we work together, we can refill the reservoir quickly." The villagers followed his instructions, setting up channels and collecting every drop of water they could find. Within hours, the reservoir was refilled, and the machines continued their work without interruption. Ethan smiled at the teamwork he had inspired. As the days passed, the machines spread to every corner of the village. Crops that had once been dying were now thriving. Green shoots covered the fields, growing taller each day. Villagers began to harvest small portions of vegetables, tasting their first real food in weeks. Children laughed, elders smiled, and hope filled the air. Ethan watched with pride. The village was transforming, not just in its crops but in its spirit. The Lyrans were learning to think creatively, to solve problems, and to work together. Human ingenuity had shown them a new way forward. One evening, as the villagers celebrated their growing crops, Tiran approached Ethan. "You have done more than we could imagine," he said. "Not only have you saved our crops, but you have also shown our people the power of creativity and teamwork." "We are grateful," Ethan smiled. "I did not do this alone. Your people helped, worked hard, and learned quickly. Humans can teach, but the real strength comes from everyone working together." The villagers nodded, inspired by Ethan's words. Children ran to inspect machines, adjusting parts and checking water flow. Adults discussed improvements and new ideas, eager to continue learning. The village buzzed with energy, hope, and determination. But Ethan knew the journey was not over. The machines had worked, but there were still risks. The soil was fragile, the weather unpredictable, and resources limited. Human ingenuity could give the village tools and knowledge, but the villagers would need to continue adapting and creating to survive. The next morning, Ethan gathered the villagers for a meeting. "Today we will test the machines in the wild fields beyond the village," he said. "These lands are untouched and dry, but if the machines can work there, your village will never face starvation again." The villagers exchanged nervous glances. These fields were dangerous, with cracked soil, uneven terrain, and little water, but their trust in Ethan had grown. "We will do it," said Lyra, stepping forward confidently. Others nodded in agreement. Together, they carried machines, tools, and containers to the wild fields. Ethan demonstrated how to set up the machines on uneven ground, adjust panels to catch sunlight, and secure containers with ropes and rods. The villagers followed, working together seamlessly. Once the machines were in place, Ethan pressed the main switch. The machines hummed to life, water flowing steadily into the soil. Slowly, tiny green shoots began to emerge, pushing through the dry earth. The villagers gasped in amazement. "This is incredible," shouted Kiro. "We did it!" Ethan smiled. "Yes, but remember, this is just the beginning. The real power is in your hands. You have learned to create, to solve problems, and to work together. The machines are tools, but you are the ones who will continue this work." By evening, the wild fields were partially revived. The villagers returned to the village, tired, but filled with pride. Crops were growing in every field, machines were humming, and the village was alive with energy and hope. Ethan sat quietly that night, looking at the green fields under the 2 moons of Virelia. He felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that human ingenuity, combined with determination and teamwork, had transformed an entire alien village. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new improvements, and new ideas. But for now, the village was safe, thriving, and inspired. Ethan had taught them something far more valuable than machines. He had shown them the power of creativity, problem-solving, and hope. The sun rose over Viralia, painting the village in golden light. For the first time in months, the air felt alive, not with struggle, but with hope. Green fields stretched across the valley, dotted with machines humming quietly as they continued their work. Ethan stood at the edge of the largest field, watching children run between the machines, adjusting gears, and monitoring water flow. The village had changed. Not just the crops, but the people. The Lyrans had learned new ways to solve problems, work together, and think creatively. The lessons Ethan had taught, human ingenuity, patience, and courage, had taken root, just like the sprouts in the soil. Tiran, the village elder, approached Ethan with a smile. "It is incredible," he said softly. "Our village is alive, again. And you have given us more than food. You have given us knowledge and hope." Ethan shook his head. "I only showed you how to see possibilities. The real work is yours. You are the ones who built, fixed, and spread the machines. Humans can teach, but the strength comes from people working together." Kiro and Lena ran up, carrying a container of small green vegetables. "Look, Ethan, they're growing so fast," Kiro said excitedly. Lena held up a small carrot. "We can eat soon," she whispered, her eyes sparkling. Ethan smiled. "Yes, soon. And even more will grow if you keep caring for the fields and the machines." The villagers gathered in the center of the village, their faces bright with happiness. Children laughed, elders nodded in approval, and adults shared stories of their progress. Machines hummed steadily across the fields, each one a testament to creativity, persistence, and teamwork. Tiran raised his hands, calling for attention. "People of Viralia, today we celebrate not only our growing crops but the courage and knowledge that saved our village. We honor Ethan, the human boy who taught us to turn trash into treasure and hopelessness into hope." The villagers cheered, clapping and shouting. Ethan felt a warmth in his heart, not for the praise but for the trust and growth he had witnessed in the Lyrans. For months they had struggled, almost giving up, but now they had discovered something even stronger than machines. They had discovered human creativity and their own potential. Over the next few days, Ethan continued teaching. He showed the villagers how to improve the machines, make them more efficient, and adapt to changing conditions. Each lesson emphasized creativity and problem-solving. Even children could now assemble parts, monitor water flow, and adjust panels, with little guidance. The village had become a school of innovation, guided by a human boy and his belief in possibilities. One afternoon, Ethan and the children visited a small forest near the village. He showed them how to collect natural materials, twigs, leaves, and clay to supplement the machines. "We can use these to enrich the soil," he explained. "Humans always look for resources in nature and recycle what we find. You can do the same." Kiro looked around excitedly. "So even the forest can help our crops?" "Yes," Ethan said. "Everything has value if you see it carefully. Nothing is wasted if you know how to use it." Lena nodded. "I want to help even more fields," she said. "You can," Ethan replied. "And one day you will show others how to do it too. That is the real legacy, knowledge that spreads." As the days passed, the villagers became increasingly independent. Machines were running smoothly, crops were thriving, and the fields were alive with green shoots. The Lyrans could now repair broken parts, improvise solutions, and improve designs. Ethan realized that his mission was almost complete. The village no longer needed him as a teacher. He had empowered them to sustain themselves. Yet leaving was not easy. Ethan had grown fond of the village, its people, and the vibrant energy that had emerged from months of struggle and creation. One evening, he walked with Tiran to the highest hill overlooking the village. The sun dipped behind distant mountains, casting long shadows across the fields. "You have done more than I imagined," Tiran said quietly. "But now it is time for you to return to your world. You have left a gift that will last generations." Ethan nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and sadness. "I will miss this place," he said, "but I know you can continue. Humans can show the way, but the real strength is yours, Tyran smiled. "Your people are remarkable," he said. "Not because of strength or power, but because of creativity, determination, and hope. You have proven that one human, even a child, can change the course of a village's future." Ethan smiled faintly. He looked down at the village. Children were tending the machines, elders were checking the soil, and adults were carrying fresh vegetables. The village was alive, with hope, energy, and life. He felt that his purpose here had been fulfilled. The next morning, Ethan prepared to leave. The villagers gathered at the edge of the village carrying small gifts, baskets of fresh vegetables, handmade tools, and simple trinkets of gratitude. Kiro and Lena ran up to hug him. "Thank you, Ethan," Kiro said. "You saved us. You taught us how to help ourselves," Lena added. Ethan smiled and hugged them both. "Remember," he said, "you have the power inside you. The machines are tools, but your creativity, determination, and teamwork are what will truly save your village." The villagers waved as the shuttle prepared to lift off. Ethan looked down at the fields one last time. The machines hummed steadily. Green shoots swayed in the breeze, and the village thrived under the two pale moons of Viralia. He felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Human ingenuity had left its mark, but more importantly, it had inspired hope and self-reliance. As the shuttle rose into the sky, Ethan looked out at the planet below. He thought about Earth, about the power of humans to create, solve problems, and inspire. Perhaps, he thought, this was the true gift humans could bring to the universe. The ability to see possibilities where others see nothing, and to act with courage and creativity. Back on the ground, the villagers returned to their work. They maintained the machines, harvested vegetables, and tended to the growing fields. The lessons Ethan had taught them, imagination, patience, and problem-solving, were now part of their daily lives. Children played near the machines, learning and laughing. Elders shared wisdom while guiding the younger generation, and adults continued to innovate, building new tools and machines from scraps and natural materials. Tyran looked at the thriving village with pride. "The human boy has left, but his legacy remains," he said to the villagers. "We are stronger now, not just because of food, but because we know we can solve problems together. We have learned the power of creativity and courage." Kiro ran up to Tyran holding a small green plant. "Look, it is growing even better than before." Tyran nodded, smiling. "Yes, and one day you will teach others what you have learned. That is the true strength of our village now." As night fell, the two moons of Viralia glowed softly over the green fields. The machines hummed quietly, water flowed, and vegetables grew abundantly. The village had transformed from despair to hope, from hunger to abundance, from doubt to determination. Ethan, far above in the shuttle, watched from the window. He knew that he had done more than build machines or save crops. He had inspired a village to believe in possibilities, to work together, and to create solutions from what others had discarded. Human ingenuity had proven its power, not through force, but through creativity, patience, and courage.